All right, joining us now, Jeremy Rosenthal, attorney. Take a look at a couple of stories making news. We're going to talk about the Hanceville Police Department here in Alabama in just a minute, Jeremy. But wanted to get your thoughts on Luigi Mangione. He's set for that first court appearance. That did take place yesterday, right?
Yeah, it took place, and a couple things. Like the most interesting thing about Luigi Mangione, I mean, there's a ton of it. He actually had to call. He talked to all of his fans, right, and said, "Quit sending me pictures. Only 5 pictures per person, please." It is that insane that he is having to tell his followers to quit. Probably from the jail, people saying, "Dude, we have to review everything that comes through here. Can you please?" I mean, he has taken on a cult following like we have not seen. I don't know that OJ had this kind of this kind of a cult following. I mean, it's bizarre. It's bizarre.
It's crazy how this happens sometimes with killers. I mean, you mentioned OJ. Bonnie and Clyde years ago, they had a bunch of people pulling for them to escape the feds and keep going. You got Luigi Mangione, who kills, and a lot of people jumped on board and said, well, it's about time somebody stepped up for us small people, and people are dying because of UnitedHealthCare's, resistance to pay for medical treatment. And look, I understand that there are some families that may have been denied coverage and things didn't go well. And, I'm not justifying murder for something like that, though. And people say, well, you got to take one for the team sometimes, JT. You got to, people are trying to argue the other side with me on this. I'm like, murder is not the answer if the CEO of this company is running a bad ship there. There are other ways to get after it. I can't get on board and wrap that around my head around it that, okay, well, somebody needs to step up and assassinate the CEO of a company that I disagree with and a lot of people disagree with. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to me.
Right.
So apparently he's now looking at the firing squad.
Well, he's facing the death penalty from the feds. And what happened in court, the development that I think is probably the most legally interesting is they're going to make a Miranda challenge to his questioning in the McDonald's in Pennsylvania. If he wins that challenge, legally, it could really be beneficial because Miranda, what that would do is that would set aside, they would not be able to use any evidence that they attained from that interview. And there was a lot because we talk about the gun, we talk about a lot of the backpack, all of those things. And it's called the fruit of the poisonous tree. That's what his lawyers are trying to cut off. And Miranda is a really, it's for a defense lawyer, it's a really interesting topic for the reason that, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if they have success, if defense has success with the Miranda issue, could it blow the case apart, or is this guy still never going to see the light of day?
I think that this is part of a bigger defensive strategy. I have a hard time thinking that this is the main stand, so to speak. But with Miranda, what happens is that it is, nobody wants to see a killer go because of a Miranda violation. It's a technicality, and it really it hacks a lot of people off. Now, that said, when people come to Jeremy's office, first thing they say, Jeremy, they didn't read me my warnings. And what's going on with this country? Why are they taking away our rights? And it's like, well, they're not, nobody likes these types of technicalities. But Miranda exists because we have an adversary system of law in the courts. And the police know darn well that you are going to be in trial, that this is adversary, but you don't know that yet. So it's sort of that way of equaling the playing field. And the issue is whether or not Mangione was in custody at that McDonald's. And here's the problem. This is like a holding call. It is really subjective. And when you're facing a murder trial, the ref is not going to blow his whistle on this one.
Yes, it's a gray area, isn't it? When and where you're supposed to do Miranda. I mean, if you just, let's say you pull Koberger over, and he's not been placed under arrest, and they say, hey, we just want to talk to you. I mean, you watch, the first 48 on television where, the cops interview people, potential suspects, or persons of interest without Mirandizing them. They're not under arrest yet, but they're just questioning. Is it on the police at that point once you're at a police station and you're being interviewed saying, look, you're not under arrest here? Do they have to Mirandize even if they just start any questioning at any point?
Great question. There are 3 levels of police interactions with people. One is a voluntary encounter. That's what the police are going to say happened at that McDonald's. We're just talking Egg McMuffin here, right? That's one. Another is what's called a detention, which is kind of what you just referenced. That's when you get pulled over by the police. You're not free to leave, but you are not under arrest. The third is called custodial interrogation. That's fundamentally when you're in the back of the squad car, when you're in handcuffs. That's where Miranda is triggered, and it is a judgment call. Which is again why when you have such a weighty case, that's why the judge is just gonna. That's why the ref is in all likelihood going to swallow the whistle on it.
Well, I got to tell you, if as much as the first 48 shows on and other crime stories are on, if you're ever pulled over or taken to the police station for questioning, I would think by now people, any walk of life, would realize, okay, there's been more than 2 or 3 questions here. They're starting to dig and look. They're starting to dig and look at me a little weird. And the next word out of my mouth is lawyer.